Okay. Let's make sure everything is working here. Is that the right microphone? Okay. Okay, good. Channel close. All right. Welcome to Office Hours Q&A Finance Friday. This is the second installment of me trying to figure out if I'm live on YouTube or not, and I think I am. So what I have in store for today is just to go through the remaining questions from last week from the questionnaire that I was sending out in addition to the LinkedIn post. So I think it's roughly about 11 or 12. So this probably won't take as long as last week's did. If I see any other questions come through while this is going on, I'll just add them to the queue. One thing that I thought would be good to do, just in case anybody's on here somehow that doesn't know me, I think most people will, just because I'm promoting this through LinkedIn and I know most of my LinkedIn connections. But my name is Alec Borlin. I'm a CPA turned executive recruiter. I fell into the wonderful world of executive search about, Jesus, little over 7 years ago, but 8 years this year. So started at a big global Fortune 500, started and sold my own shop, BGC Search, to who I'm now with Pinnacle Consulting. Pinnacle is what we focus on right now, at least what I do, is the accounting and finance consulting arm, where we're providing seasoned interim accounting experts really in transformative periods. So could be companies that are kind of experiencing a exodus and need some stabilization, or companies going through a good transformation and they're implementing ERPs and whatnot. So without further ado, let's get into the questions themselves. Again, this will be recorded on YouTube. It'll live on the channel. I will also repost it with the relevant chapter summary so that people can kind of skip to each one of those different questions and answers. So first question, side hustles. Are there any ethical or legal ways to do tax prep or bookkeeping on the side while working in corporate? That is an absolute zinger to start with here. So I have seen this before. I've seen people who normally they'll be doing a corporate accounting role or corporate FP&A type role, and then they end up starting a tax practice on the side, just doing 1040s, which for me, that was the biggest thing I hated in public accounting was 1040s. So I don't know why you'd want to do that personally, but if you do a completely different area, I don't know if I would say it's ethical or legal. Technically, I don't know if there's any limitations because you're not sharing public information about the company that you're working at with anybody. There's no competing interest in any sense. It's really just your time and attention away from what that company hired you to do. So I don't know of any actual laws that would make it like a no-no. It's just a matter of like keeping them kind of separate ultimately in terms of what you're offering, your services, because obviously, like if you're just working a corporate role, you're just doing those companies, whatever specialty you have, FP&A, tax, accounting, whatever it may be. Okay, next one is more of a lifestyle question. So does a true 40-hour week exist in finance, or is it a myth? 40-hour weeks definitely exist within finance. It's going to be, I mean, it exists in public accounting, it exists in industry. And I think the trade-off there is if you have a true 40-hour week, my question would be how aggressive the company is growing. So a lot of times, you know, if you have really good work-life balance, you might be in an organization that is kind of already mature. They might not be pushing the envelope on any strategic initiatives, and therefore what you're learning, what you're tackling on a day-to-day basis might not be as complex. But I do know of, there's a couple of public accounting firms I know of in the past that they're just 40 hours a week throughout the entire year. They actually don't have a busy season. which is incredibly unique for public accounting. So I think, yeah, short answer is yes, it exists. It's just, is that the environment that you want to be a part of? Are you learning everything that you want to? And don't get me wrong, you can definitely have a company that is advancing things and moving forward and still working 40 hours a week. They're just more unicorns compared to, there's normally, what I've seen is there's trade-offs, right? You're learning a ton, you're getting exposure to a lot of different areas, but you're also going to be working a little bit more, but your upside's probably going to be there more too, right? If it's a PE environment, you might have equity upside. You might have bonus upside and just general bonus upside. So there's trade-offs to everything. This one's kind of related. It is, I'm 3 years into public, 3 years into public and I'm miserable. Does it get better in industry or is it just a different kind of stress? Okay, it doesn't get better. It doesn't get better in public, that is. So in industry, it is 100% a different kind of stress where in each of these roles, there's going to be periods of peak busy season. So in public accounting, it's obviously condensed into that one period of time, AKA right now, where the calendar falls versus in industry, it's kind of spread out throughout the year, mainly around month end close, quarter end close, year end close, budgeting season, all those different, again, it falls within the accounting, finance, and tax calendar. So there are certainly companies in industry where you might actually work more than you would in public accounting. And that's just because of what's going on. It goes back to, is the company kind of I can't remember if I can swear in here or not, so I won't say it. Is it a mess, right? Is it going through a tough time? Or are they doing a lot of things? Are they going through good transformation? So I've seen plenty of times a company about to go through a pre-IPO could be working more hours than a public accountant during busy season. It just depends on the season of the company itself, the stage of growth, all the different initiatives that they have going on. So short answer, I would say short answer is it's a different kind of stress. Broadly speaking, industry does have better work-life balance. Some people will say, hey, it is actually the same, month ends, miserable. But honestly, with the technology out there now, there's softwares that allow people to continuously close. And so, that's the big one where people are always, they just have no choice. They have to get the books closed to be able to get the results to leadership so that they can make decisions and help steer the ship. So broadly speaking, industry is still better from a work-life balance standpoint than public, but there are definitely industry roles that will have a very busy schedule. Okay, this is a good one. How do you manage the anxiety that comes with the first week of a month-end close? I think the only way to manage it is to prepare for it. So what I've seen work amongst teams is they have their checklists, they have their roll sheets, meaning they have each aspect of the close designated for who's going to do that work, when they're going to start looking at it and preparing for it. And if you just have that written out, like print it out if you need to, and like write your own checklist. Well, I know for me, whenever I'm stressed out, it's normally about something that I know I need to do. So I just get it out of my head. I write it down on paper and then I do it, cross it off, and I'm good. Now, obviously I have that digitally, so I never lose it, but the act of just getting it out of my head and onto paper normally helps me out. So the easy answer is just have a plan for month end. It's coming. It's coming every time. Exactly when it's coming every month. So plan around it, have the checklist, have the schedule, have everything laid out, talk to your team members, anticipate any issues before they pop up, look at the problem areas of the past, look into those, and have a contingency plan if it's going to pop up again like that. Is it possible to be a CFO and a present parent, or do you have to choose? I'm going to answer this one quickly. I mean, it's 100% possible. There's hundreds of people. I mean, hundreds. There's thousands, if not millions of people that have probably done this. I mean, it goes along with any high-performing individual. The hard part is the balance and the organization of your calendar. What I've seen busy executives do is just they stay on top of their time management and make sure that they are fully present at their kids' soccer games or whatever it may be. And at the same time, they're getting all of their work done that they need to. And when they're in the office, when they're working, they're fully locked in on that. They're not distracted by their phone or anything else that isn't signal in that kind of, if you've heard Steve Jobs, signal versus noise comparison. Okay. How can you tell during an interview? If a finance team has a toxic hustle culture? That's a good question. And I saw a good post on this. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. And so the best way to find out if they have a toxic hustle culture, number one, is to start that dialogue of what the culture looks like, what the team's working environment is look like. And based on their answer, if it's something like, oh, we work hard, play hard, ask follow-up questions to that. So, what do you mean by that? What does that look like in practice? So that's like the first part, but you're only going to get a surface level answer. I don't know if you're going to be able to really, unless you have a high level of emotional intelligence, you're not going to be able to tell what's BS and what's actually true. What you can do that is a great way to find out just about an environment in general is go on LinkedIn and try to find some people that have been a part of this finance team in the past that have since moved on and are in a new organization. Reach out to them, explain the situation, get as close to a realistic explanation of what the environment is like. And then from that, make your decision if it's worthwhile continuing on in that interview process or not. Yeah, because outside of that, I really don't know if there's any ways you can tell if it's toxic. By toxic, it would really, hustle culture translated means they praise working longer hours. And therefore, how do you find out if people are internally kind of battling each other and seeing how many hours they're working and grinding and whatnot? It's kind of, broadly speaking, when you look back I know from my public accounting days, I was 100% looking at it, and I was looking at my hours that I was putting in, and I was comparing it against to the people at my level and how many hours they were putting in. So it was kind of drilled into me, even in my undergrad in accounting, that it was like this, and this is a broad problem I see a lot of accounting and finance professionals deal with is this translation between working hard and, like, if I'm not making myself miserable, I'm not allowed to be happy. So it's tough. This question, it's like, I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole here, but it's a very real thing. And it's very sad to see because there's so many amazing tools out there now that you should be working smarter and not harder. And with less and less people going into accounting and finance overall, we have to find a way to get more done with less human capital because there's just going to be less and less. Companies don't want to invest in big, bloated finance teams. That's just how it's been since I've been in this ecosystem in general. So that hustle culture should really be more of entrepreneurial culture, if you will, in the sense of being an entrepreneur in the finance function. Could be a stretch. I don't know. Raw thoughts on it. Okay, this is a funny question now. Why does it seem like every accountant's only hobby is Excel or sleeping? I think this person forgot golf. Golf, Excel, sleeping. I don't know. That's the sleeping part is because they're catching up from all of the work that they're putting in. Like the last question of living a hustle culture life. Yeah, I don't think I have an answer for that. I think accountants are, they're a very specific personality, but I've met accountants that do kung fu and do snorkeling. And, there's a lot of amazing accountants with very interesting hobbies out there. Have you ever been asked to cook the books or smooth earnings, and how did you say no? Well, I haven't been in a position to do that, so I don't have an answer for that one, but I'm sure that somebody in the network has. So if I can get an answer to that, that might be like a poll or a post I put out there on LinkedIn, see if we can get any sort of good perspective on that. And then the last question I have here from the list from last week is, if you could go back to the start of your career, would you still choose accounting and finance? For me personally, 100%. Even though I am in, like, everyone that I talk to is in the accounting and finance world, I'm not actually doing the accounting myself anymore. I would still 100% go back and choose accounting as a career because it taught me the language of business. It taught me to have a good work ethic. It taught me, accounting is one of those fields when you look at entrepreneurship, it's one of the, if we look at a business as a football team, right? Accounting, law, there's one other that I always say, but it's Friday at 4:16, so I can't think of it. But they're the offensive line, right? They're the blocking and tackling. You have to have a good accountant. You have to have a good CPA helping you with taxes. You have to have a good legal team helping you with contracts. You have to have good, just healthy understanding of how a business actually works. Obviously, you can get into the other functions of like marketing and IT. Those are nice add-ons once you're a big enough company, but accounting just taught me what owners and how really smart people who run businesses are thinking about how they can add value to the business itself, but then also to the end customers, right? Because there is no good business without having a product or service that is adding value to the customers. Again, to bring it back to the question itself, I would do it because it taught me all those things, but then also in how I'm helping, overburdened finance teams or those that need help that they can't necessarily get, it just gives me a really good understanding from a technical standpoint. And it's less of me understanding what these people are doing and more of finding the right cultural fit, the right team player, the right mindset that is going to work well within whatever project we're placing them into, whatever company we're placing them into full time, because that is just as important as the technical skill. Because if they're not getting along together, they're not going to want to work together. It's just not going to be as good. So I'd be curious to hear, when, asking that to somebody who is in the CFO seat or a controller, if they would have that same argument. Again, most of the people who go this route, they have a specific personality that is a good fit for it. There's not as many people who make it into senior leadership or financial leadership who don't have a certain type of personality, or at least enjoy what they're doing from the technical side of things. But there's so much you can do with an accounting or finance degree, accounting specifically too. And this is something that last year, at least, I saw a lot of posts about it. It was much more prevalent in the sense of how are we going to stop the accounting shortage? And what I always say is the number one way is we have to market it in a different way. The way it was sold to me is that there's always going to be demand, right? So safety from a career standpoint, you make good money doing it. Like if you get your CPA and you go specific routes, you can make a really good living. It's a well-respected career, and like that's good and all, but that's kind of like, the conservative sell. I think if we were to go back and position it in a way that, like, hey, if you go into accounting and finance, like, you're going to help business owners help society by doing X, Y, and Z. If you look at the younger generation, they care a great deal about how businesses are impacting the world around us, right? The actual environment and then society itself. So I know the question wasn't like, how do we solve the accounting shortage problem? But that was somewhat related here, is we've got to get people excited about going into this profession again, because it is one of the most critical things that we need. When investors make a decision on a publicly traded company or an investment in a private equity backed fund or whatever it may be, like, they are relying on those critical students and entry level people. You got to position in a way that isn't, when I was in school, it was just go into public accounting, just go into public accounting, just go into public accounting. There was no like, here's what you can do after that. Here's the connections you'll make. Here's what you'll learn. Here's what you're going to be doing for business owners by doing that. So in anything, It's all about communicating the value and the impact that you're having in the role itself. So let's make accounting better again by repositioning the impact that the profession is actually able to have. So those are all the questions I had today. Make sure nothing came in. Check a few spots here just to make sure no messages that I missed. And then if not, I'm just going to end it and get some time back on this Friday afternoon. Okay. I think we're good. So I'm going to end this and I'll put out I have a different queue for questions for next week. If there's anything you guys want to answer, I post the link itself in my LinkedIn post. But if you comment on this video, right, this live, or if you comment on this video when I repost it so that I can add the chapters to it, I'll make sure I add that question to the list. If there's anything you want me to cover here, this is a new series. This is something that I am prioritizing in 2026 here. So let me know, DM me, whatever you want to do. Happy to have further conversation. Add it if it adds value for you guys.